Welcome to Overwatch This. This is Jeff from the Overwatch team. Let's have fun today.
Hello everyone and welcome to episode 30 of Overwatch This. Hi Ben, how you doing?
I'm good.
Yeah, so I'm Matt, this is Ben. We're here to give you all that Overwatch goodness, and obviously Uprising is over now. Sad, I'm sad to see it go, really genuinely am.
Yeah, I think it was by far the game's most successful event so far. I think skins were great. We've gone through all this, but you know, skins were great, the event was great, gameplay stuff was good, the story stuff was what people wanted. I think it's raised a lot of demand for more single player content, and I think Blizzard were probably thinking about once Overwatch sold as many copies as it did, we're actually now up to 30 million players. They announced last week, I think it was a couple of days ago, just ahead of the Activision Blizzard financials, which is tomorrow, which is why they do all their player announcements during this period. Did a similar thing for Hearthstone. I expect once they knew how much it sold, they were starting to think about doing like a proper single player expansion type deal. I expect that this will have only reinforced that that's a good idea, because I would guess, and again I expect we'll find out in maybe slightly more detail tomorrow after the financial call, exactly how many players they saw being active during the event, but I would expect that it was more than they'd seen for maybe a couple of months, and they'll realise that they could, it wouldn't be breaking any of their promises to sell for 15 quid, 20 quid an 8 mission campaign or something. Absolutely. Obviously that is a lot of work and would probably have to go to an entirely different team, but I think if you're excited about that sort of thing, Uprising probably is exactly what you would. I think you played more of it than I did.
Loads,
yeah. How did you find it when you were actually?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, kind of like after a while, you start to get into the swing of kind of the match, so it feels slightly more predictable because we know where enemy placements are. But it generally offered something very different. I really loved being kind of like that lore hunter, I'm constantly looking for more sort of stuff out of the story, just getting those voice lines through it, and those voice lines that change over time and stuff like that. I just thought it was great, and some of my favourite characters as well. So yeah, it really lived up to, as a fan, that nice hype. Package, yeah. Yeah,
I think it was really good in that way as well, and it's good to see that they're willing to use all of the resources at their disposal, like Michael Chu said, where he wrote too much dialogue, and then they managed to use that to expand it rather than just all of that landing on the cutting room floor, which I feel like is kind of something that's changed in games overall, is companies realising that their fans want as much content as they can be given, even if not all of it maybe is the same quality. As long as it's worked in a good way, that's something I really enjoy. So I mean, Uprising is done.
Yeah, so we've got to look at what's coming next, and obviously it's a massive time for Overwatch, because we're only weeks away from the game's first anniversary.
Yeah, so it's May 24th. I think it's 3 weeks exactly today. We're assuming that's when the next event will be. There's like a bunch of different reasons. The HOTS event, if you count that as like a half Overwatch event, that actually ends literally the day before.
Right.
Ends on the Tuesday night. Assuming each one runs for 1 week as they're meant to, we just kind of did the
So basically there'll be a ton of people ready to get going with some more Overwatch, because now they've got 10 loot boxes and they've got a sweet new D.va skin.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and they've maybe gone over to HOTS for a little bit and they enjoyed that, and maybe they want to come back to Overwatch after maybe spending a couple of weeks off. Blizzard have also done birthday events in WoW for a long time. The first one wasn't huge because, I mean, for about 3 years after WoW's launch, they were scrambling to have enough staff to support it. But they did like a massive thing for the 10th anniversary. I think for the 5th anniversary, that was when they really started doing kind of something every year. And I think you can expect with all of their games for the kind of 1st, 5th and 10th anniversaries, certainly all the games that are like paid for and that have these kind of big communities and audiences, you can expect something on those days. So I would be very surprised if I think it's impossible that nothing will happen on the day. I would be very, very surprised if we don't get kind of all the things we're about to discuss, not least because a bunch of fairly significant leaks have kind of appeared.
Shocking.
Yes.
Shocking.
as they tend to do. The most like kind of obvious one, and the one that got like a kind of big upvoted Reddit thread, was YouTube playlists were updated. Now, this was only noticed a few weeks later, but basically, according to the playlist, they have a last updated thing on them. And that was the day after the last time a video came out. Right. So what people think is that unlisted videos, private videos, have been added to those playlists so that when they go live, it's all ready to go. It would make sense for them to have kind of had all that ready a month ago, because obviously they work quite far in advance. You have to, particularly if you want to get that kind of Blizzard quality level of balance, level of, lovely looking skins and all the rest of it. In fact, what it was is all of the playlists were updated, so it wasn't like it was just the cinematic playlist or just the like hero backstory playlist. It was, if you go by what was there, we'd be getting an event, a map, a hero, and a cinematic all at once.
So we're talking a full-on kind of extravaganza of all the things that make Overwatch. We're probably going to get one new thing for
everything. Yeah, and it looks like it would be the biggest event that we've seen so far, and that would make sense. Like a cinematic certainly seems inevitable.
Well, surely we'd be following on from kind of like that opening cinematic that showed so much.
Well, that's what I would think. Yeah,
and the sequel to that now.
Particularly if you assume the next hero is Doomfist, and I mean, we've got a whole section about that coming up in just a couple of minutes. But like, if you assume that, then he was a major, his gauntlet was a major part of that cinematic, and yeah, I would expect it to follow on. The way that cinematics are made at Blizzard, unless I've got this completely wrong, is basically there is a cinematics team. Within it, there is bits that focus on different parts of the different bits of their games. But if you like count it as one team, and that's how they have this kind of consistent, lovely art style through the whole everything they make. The last time they actually released anything was that very short D.va cinematic for the Heroes of the Storm event the other week. That was about 2 minutes long, and that was very good, and it looked beautiful and all the rest of it. But before that, the only thing that came out was the Sombra cinematic, as far as I remember. That was the last thing that was released, as well as the Heroes of the Storm cinematics that I think were also at that BlizzCon regarding Varian and Ragnaros. So, what have they been doing? Presumably, partly they've been making whatever...
Hopefully something with Zarya in, considering she got like the post-credit sting section.
Well, yeah, so I mean, that's what's interesting, is exactly what it's going to be about, because, you would assume that if it's coming with a new hero, they would continue the cadence they've had where the second hero gets a cinematic themselves. So presumably it would be about Doomfist, again, assuming he's the next hero. But yeah, Zarya got that post-credit sting, so, who knows what's going on there. I would be really surprised if they didn't release a hero and a cinematic. It wouldn't feel like a big event without those. Those are kind of the staple Overwatch things. And if they want to make a big deal out of the anniversary, which I think they do, I think they've been hinting at that. Just from kind of very small things they've said, they've been like, the anniversary's coming. The community expects something. It'd be kind of like if we got to Halloween and they were like, no, there's no Halloween event. I don't know what you're talking about.
I think the other thing is there's never been really a Blizzard game that's quite sparked as quickly as Overwatch.
No, certainly not. Certainly not in the modern era. Like it kind of did the same thing WoW did, but WoW did it before Reddit existed. And before we kind of had this idea of a gaming community and Twitter and YouTube and Twitch and shows like this and all the rest of it. So yeah, I think it'd be very strange for them not to exploit that, because they've always been so good at it.
Yeah.
The main question I would have is whether there's going to be like a kind of event surrounding it or not. We've had heroes without events before. Orisa didn't have an event. Anna didn't have an event. Sombra didn't even have an event. We haven't had any heroes with events so far. We have just come off the back of an event, which certainly is the most complex they've put together so far, and will have taken the most amount of kind of work from the development team. So whether they'll have another one ready or not, I don't know. But again, this is the first anniversary. This is when you want to really pull out all the stops. So an event would certainly be something to help along with that.
Absolutely, yeah. So in terms of other things that you might expect, what else could come with sort of like a first anniversary? Because obviously it's a chance to kind of do a major announcement of looking at changes that you're bringing. If there are certain modes that people have got long-standing issues with, what would you expect? So
there's three major things. There's the 1v1 and 3v3 stuff that I've talked about quite a lot, because I actually quite like them as modes. I think they're really good. I don't know if that's actually like a big enough deal to kind of make the central theme of an anniversary, but say they're going, oh, here's our anniversary patch, here's all these changes. I can imagine one of their kind of second tier items being like, oh, we're expanding 1v1 and 3v3, here's a new map for it, or here's some changes that we're making, or we're doing something competitively with it. Speaking of which, that's another thing they could announce, is like kind of major changes to the way competitive works. At the moment, I think it's just different enough from Quick Match that it's interesting, but they could do more. They could have stuff like official team support. They're going to need that as we head into the Overwatch League, if that ever actually happens. Clearly, there's been some delays there, and whether they announce it too early or not, I don't know, but team stuff is very much going to be the focus of that. So you need a way to bring people up and have official support for a team of 3 people, a team of 5 people, a team of 6 people that can, be ranked as a squad rather than just their individual kind of MMRs. And that would need its own leaderboard. I would expect something like that is certainly on the way. Whether they're going to do that now or they would save that, even if it was ready for some kind of league type announcement, which we are going to see. Like, the league is still scheduled to start this year. Again, this is something we might see during the financial call tomorrow, is some information regarding that and like where it's at and when they're expecting to see it. Most likely we'll just have an announcement that it is still planned for this year. But if it is planned for this year, that means all of the tech that's going to support it. And this is stuff that they kind of got wrong in the past, particularly with StarCraft. They didn't have stuff supporting this pro scene that was ready to go, but there was no like easy way to go from, oh, I'm a good player to I'm a pro. They've implemented a lot of that, and other games have too. League has very, good systems for having a challenger team, they call it, and then you go up with all your friends and you can go from there to actually having a sponsorship and actually being an LCS team. They will want all of that to be in, but it's whether they would announce that and do it now, or have been working on it for now, or do it for some kind of future announcement. The last thing is they could change how loot boxes work.
Okay.
I think it's probably, they're still controversial, partly because they are a microtransaction within a full price game, or at least nearly full price game. Heroes of the Storm's system is just better. It's got this reroll thing where you can spend the in-game currency to re-roll a box. So you got a box, you don't like what's in it, you can just spend, say, in Overwatch it would be maybe 100 credits or something you would spend to re-roll a box. I think that would fix a lot of problems people have, particularly with the event loot boxes, when they get like all dupes out of an event loot box, and they're like, well, these credits are worth even less because all the event items are worth 3 times as much. I would like to see that come over. I don't know if they'd be ready to make a decision like that yet. I expect they're still gathering data on how successful the Heroes system has been, how much people like it. But that is just another area I could see them changing. What I don't expect to see is like a major kind of story thing beyond here's a new hero with a little bit of lore, because we've just had one. What they might do is push the timeline forward a bit, but I don't think they will like fill in any of the gaps and stuff as they have been doing with Uprising.
So as we've hinted at earlier on in this conversation, we have this inkling that maybe our next hero could be Doomfist. Tell me why. I mean, there's plenty of talk around the internet about Terry Crews and all this kind of stuff, but you're our Overwatch master. What have you actually seen that makes it feel like it might genuinely be happening this time?
As I've written in our mini script type deal here, if it isn't Doomfist, I will eat my entire hand.
I look forward to seeing you come through on this.
Yeah, it's gonna be a painful time. The way they've kind of done Doomfist is like a sort of better played Sombra arc, where it's taken that amount of time. I mean, they've been teasing this character for like nearly 3 years at this point, since the 2014 announcement with with his gauntlet being the focus of that cinematic. But they've done it in such a way that it hasn't like dominated the conversation the whole time. It's just always been there, kind of flittering along in the background, and people being, oh man, Doomfist will be cool, Doomfist will be cool. But it's kind of reaching ahead at this point. They've done the surprise once of, oh, it's not Doomfist, it's Orisa, it's this character you didn't know anything about. And they teased him within that, but they didn't do it. But they've done that once. If you do that again, I mean, people are obviously going to be like, oh, cool, a new character. But I don't think they're going to, respond as well as they did the last time. It's getting to the point where you do just eventually need to have some follow through on all your teasing. So there's that reason, but there's also been in the past, I think it's like the past couple of weeks, there's been a few 4chan posts. Now, 4chan posts are obviously completely anonymous, can be made by any individual alive, and it's not the greatest source for anything from political opinions to leaks on your favourite video games. However, A, they look slightly believable. B, we've seen leaks through 4chan before. Whether these are the same people or not is entirely up for debate, but they have proved to be accurate. There were some Orisa leaks that they were just about on, it was clear that they knew something. Now, whether they were connected enough to the team, as it were, to know the most recent facts or not, all of that would point no from exactly what they said.
I mean, there's only so much the dog walker can see when he's like picking up little Benji. Well,
yeah, exactly, yeah. Or if they're working on the QA team, they're not going to have direct contact with Jeff Kaplan, right? It depends where these leaks come from, and the higher up you are in the organisation, the less likely you are to leak stuff. However, what these leaks said was that basically, so it is Doomfist. He is voiced by Terry Crews. Again, that's one of those things where I expect if it doesn't happen, people will be angry. It's one of those things where the community set themselves up. There'll be threads being like, oh, isn't Terry Crews? That sucks. And there'll be a thread that says, well, you guys set yourself up for this. But I think it is within Blizzard's budget to get someone like Terry Crews. I think it's a very good idea. I think it'd be entertaining. I think he is a very entertaining guy. I also think he'd be a great voice actor for it. So yeah, the rumor is that he is voiced by Terry Crews. obviously he has the big fist, and he's kind of built around this idea of charging around the map.
Right, okay.
And so he kind of charges into people, and he can charge for like 4 seconds straight. It's like a powered up version of Reinhardt's charge. That's also sort of mixed with like Tracer's blink. So it's meant to be his main movement tool, and it's got like these charges on his charge. So you have like, you can do it 3 times, and then those all kind of refresh or whatever. He also has, so his ultimate is he like leaps into the air and then comes down on a point. And if you're under him, you die.
They've gone full super. I mean, you know,
so it sounds like kind of full superhero.
Yeah, he's Thanos. I understand the whole sort of thing. He's Thanos from the Marvel sort of stuff. But yeah, that dive and coming down, that's just full super villain.
Yeah, exactly.
You can imagine it on the Overwatch kind of comic having a mid-page spread, sort of like him coming down, shattering the earth.
Exactly. Punching out. Punching a bunch of Orisa robots everywhere. So I mean, part of the reason it's so believable as well is because of exactly this sort of thing where you're immediately like, yes, I can imagine that in game. I can imagine that in the comics, etc. So that is part of why I find it quite believable. Yeah. So the idea of the ultimate is, wherever he lands, if you're there, you just die, like being hit by a D.va roll. Because when I initially saw it, I was like, "Oh, that doesn't sound, that doesn't sound very believable." But then you think about D.va, D.va does just. I think even if you have like a fully powered Lucio shield on you, it does kill you because it does like 900 damage or something.
I think obviously it depends on sort of like
if you have various bits of damage reduction on you, you can survive. But and then outside of that, it'll like knock everyone back. It doesn't actually stun them, but it just like throws them. And also does damage like in that circle. So that sounds super cool. Again, the believability is low, right? It could just all be bollocks made up by somebody who's just having a laugh. The guy who posted all of this, or at least one of them, said that they were part of the QA team down in Austin. That's one of the Blizzard offices. The thing about all leaks like this that kind of makes them slightly less believable for me is having spoken to people that have worked in games. Not only is this something that people don't do because they don't like doing it and because they know how much damage it puts on a company and on the team and how depressing it is for like the PR guys and the marketing guys who've set all this stuff up, but also like it's not that you'll get fired and you will get fired, it's that they can sue you. They can sue you for ruining all these marketing plans. There'll be bits in your contract.
Surely you signed something as well.
Exactly. Like you're breaking an NDA, you're breaking a legal agreement, and they can sue you for money. They can probably sue you for jail time if they want to. Not a lawyer, but there you go. That said, it's plausible. I also think they need a villain quite badly. They've needed one since day one. That's like kind of actually visible. They've got like Talon, but it's kind of like if the only bad guy in the Marvel universe was Hydra, but without the Red Skull or Captain America, as it were. And so like they need that. I think it's also like the idea of it not being Doomfist. Like even without any of these leaks, I would be sat here saying I think it's going to be Doomfist. Here's why. So I think that's very, very likely. And that sort of thing where they can kind of carry on that initial storyline shown in the cinematic on the first anniversary is like that's a very Blizzard kind of that makes sense.
Yeah, awesome. So that's everything we've got for this week from Overwatch This. If you enjoyed the video, there's a very handy thumbs up button. If you click that, that will give us a like, and Rumours says it will make you definitely more attractive.
That's
if you
what
click
I heard.
it.
Yeah, I've hit it like 5 or 6 times, and you should see what I was like before.
I mean, that beard growth is really coming on since you clicked it. Yeah, there's also a subscribe button if you want to press that. That will mean that you can see everything that we do.
We don't know what that one does.
No, that's currently untested. If you want to be our tester, please give it a go. And that's everything. Until next time, thanks for watching.